All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of After the Pause, our YouTube podcast series that really came from our book, A Place Called Braverly. This book that it has inspired just a lot of conversations on courage, a lot of conversations about what it looks like to live bravely, dream courageously, and influence bravery in others. And Christy, I love that we get to do this together, and I love that we also get to invite guests on as well. So today we have Julia Gentry with us. Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. And just to give people a little bit of background, Julia is the founder of the Dream Factory & Co. and author of a best-selling book in Christian leadership, Dream, I Dare You. Despite starting her professional career in real estate, then being completely burned out in her early 30s, only to experience a midlife awakening, Julia can say that today she is truly living the dream. I love that. As a national speaker, author, business owner, growth coach, wife, and homeschool mom to 5, Julia knows what it takes to bridge the gap. The Dream Factory & Co. is founded on the vision to awaken dreamers everywhere by giving them the tools to bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. Julia has used her dream framework to help thousands of dreamers who are looking for the answer to the question, is there something more? Man, Julia, there's so much packed in that. I love it. And I'm just curious, as we dive in, I want to hear what's a dream that's currently taking up the most space in your head and heart right now.
Oh, that's so cool that you asked that. And it's actually something that I've been sitting with the Lord again, because we've really hit this chapter in our lives that, I'm living the dream that I had 10 years ago today. And what's been so fascinating about that is that the reality that the blessing is heavy. And I think that a lot of times we think when we'll get there, it'll be perfect. And when we get there, it's going to be everything that I want. And when we get there, then I'll just keep dreaming. And so it's so funny that you asked that, because I was sitting with the Lord even just yesterday and I was like, God, what am I dreaming next? And it was this wild moment with God where I was like, you know what? I don't know that I'm dreaming anything yet, because I'm still catching up with the weight of the blessing of everything that I have. I mean, we are seeing this message transform, 5 kids, traveling the country. There is so much on our plate that God has given us that, quite honestly, my dream right now is, Lord, I want to steward this so well. So when we go back to the drawing board and we write the next book, and we've got ideas to take this to the kids market and families, and, we have some dreams, but we're just truly, really, I know this sounds kind of trite or cheap, but I'm just doing the reps to get the character to hold what he's given me.
Yeah. No, that doesn't sound cheap. That sounds powerful.
Yeah, man, it is heavy. It's heavy.
Oh gosh, I'm curious. Okay, so Kate made mention of this in your intro. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the dream framework is and how people can put that into practice? Just walk us through that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you guys gave me a warning, right? So if I don't explain this very well, it's your fault, because I have 25 minutes. If I do, then my director of operations is gonna be like, you can stay another day.
There's a lot at stake, it sounds like.
So where I was, 10 years ago, was at the gap that most of us are, right? And where we are and where we want to be. And that can be in any goal or dream, right? I want to lose 30 pounds, but I'm 30 pounds overweight. I want to write the book, but I've never written a book. I want to be married, but I've never been married. I have 2 kids, but I have this dream of 4. It doesn't really matter what it is. And I think, Kate, you had said this too, this is not about how big your dreams are. They're just how real they are to you. Yeah. And so I think that for me, when I was at that place, I had been business coaching, I had done every process map, bought every program, all the how-tos that you can imagine. And yet there was still a gap. And then in my inner workings with people, I started to notice they have the gap too, right? No matter how many process maps or strategic plans or how-to guides they're using, there still seems to be this huge gap. And we started to learn that that gap is really bridged in a heart set and mindset over skill set, right? I think skill set is a byproduct of a heart set and mindset that is fixed on Jesus, that is super clear on their dreams, right? That's able to kind of have the right heart and mind to bridge the gap. So the gap, right? We have to really understand what dreaming is. We have the acronym dreaming. I have to actually discover the power in dreaming. This is not designed to make me feel good. It's designed to make me be good. It's designed to actually help me understand that I am here to bring heaven to earth. Like I am part of this equation, right? Then I have to rethink my thoughts for the R, right? I have to actually be able to think what heaven's thinking, say what heaven's saying, dream what heaven's dreaming. And that is a complete mindset overhaul, not focused on what's around me, but what's actually within me. Then we have to actually establish a dream that's bigger than this life to live for. Come to find out, most of us don't have dreams bigger than this life to live for, which is why life is getting in the way. Like, I don't have enough money. You don't have a dream big enough. I don't have enough time. Also don't have a dream big enough. Well, it's hard. Also, you don't have something bigger to live for, right? Then I got to align with what heaven's doing. It needs to be bigger than me. And then I got to get moving. I got to go when I don't feel like it. I have to start when I feel underqualified. I have to take steps. I got to get out of the boat so I could actually let God lead me by walking on water. And that's such a mobilization. So that's the framework. It's not complex. It's really simple, stupid, hard, but that's the framework that we've created and the tools that we've given people to start bridging that gap.
Yeah. I love that. Simple, stupid, hard. That feels like life some days.
It's so, and we always say, I'm like, it's simple, stupid, hard. It is really simple, stupid, hard.
Like I kind of want a mug.
Yes, we do.
Hard.
We have at our events, we have shirts that say pick your heart and simple, stupid, hard and hard over comfort. And because it is, it's all of those things, and the complex things are not, it's not where it's at. It's in the simple things that some days you're like, dang, this is so stupid hard. And it's the path that's set before us. It's the simple, stupid, hard things.
Absolutely. And before we hopped on and like actually pushed record so that everyone could hear this conversation, we were talking a little bit about like counting the cost in these dreams and counting the cost in following Jesus in the first place, right? Like there's a cost there. And I would love to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that, one of our questions for you, what are some obstacles that people run into, right? And I'm sure that there's a lot of obstacles, because I can even think of them in my own life, but I think maybe one that we don't think about in the beginning is that counting the costs. So I don't even exactly know what my question is in there, but I would love to hear more about what your team is talking about, is processing with people on this idea of counting the cost and what that looks like in dreaming and following Jesus.
Yeah. So we have a mastermind group called Dream Storm, which is really, it's a group of people who believe in taking their dreams by storm. So we meet every week. And this month we've been talking about this idea of conviction, which is one of the chapters in my book. It's the thing that I think most of us don't have. It's our burn. It's our give a damn, if you will. It's the thing that we can't not do. And the two biggest things that we've been talking about that really keep us, right, or the obstacles, if you will, it's not our past, it's not money, it's not time, right? We blame it on all of these like physical external factors, and it really has nothing to do with that. But I think the number one thing is disappointment, right? And God, the Bible is very clear about this. It says, do not be offended in me, right? Blessed are those who don't find offense in me, Jesus says, which basically means I have to surrender my will, my way, my time, right? Like pain is real. Do not get me wrong. Like loss, losing someone you love, wanting a baby and not being able to get pregnant. Actually walking through huge disappointment is one of the biggest deterrents of continuing to dream. But Jesus says, like, you're going to have to trust my will, my way, my time. And so that breaking in order to heal, and that surrendering of our will and our way and our time so that God can continue to lead us is number one. But number two, I don't think we do count the cost. I think we set New Year's resolutions or goals, or we do a whiteboard, vision board, and we're like feeling good. You know what I mean? Like the last time we all did that, we were like in the zone, like, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to make $1 million and I'm going to make the world a better place and heaven on earth and like all the things. And then we get to the gym and we do a push-up and we're like, ugh, that is really hard. We're like, we put ourselves out there and we're rejected and we're like, that is really hard, right? Or like we go write the sentence in our book and we realize like, I don't know how to write a completed sentence. Like, then we start to realize like, it's really hard. And I think we start to internalize it like, the heart is bad, or we're doing something wrong, or God's not meeting us, or it's not perfect. And we forgot that in order to count the cost, that means I'm going to have to surrender oftentimes my people pleasing. I'm going to have to surrender my control. I'm going to have to surrender the alcohol. I'm going to have to surrender the hiding places outside of him. Like, we have to come face to face with all of the things that we've been turning to, right? Like, that costs us. And so I think that, for me, when I wrote this book, I didn't write it because I was like, everybody should be living their dreams. I wrote it because as you get through this process, you're like, dang, to your lady's point, this is hard. And the courage to keep going is not storm the gates. It's just the willingness. It's the boldness to just say yes, even when it's hard. And so I think just wrapping your head around that of like, okay, this is gonna cost me, but it's gonna cost me either way. Like, not following Jesus is going to cost me. Following Jesus is going to cost me. Chasing my dreams is going to cost me. Not chasing my dreams. Being fit, being fat, having money, no money. Like, it's all hard. It's all going to cost me something. And so we always encourage people, like, just make sure you're picking the cost that you want most, right? Like, the return on investment that you want most is where you want to be putting your time, your money, your talents.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Christy and I just recently had a conversation about like saying no, and just the courage that it sometimes takes to say no. But the idea there too is like, when you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Or when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else, right? So there's that flip. So it's kind of similar to what you're talking about of like, there's going to be a cost either way.
Yeah.
So like my dad, bless his heart. He'll sometimes he'll just remind me of those hard things. There's like, what cost can you live with? Like what yes or what no can you really live with at the end of the day? Which I love to hear that. That's always really powerful truth for me. But it's really good because it's very true. Like, what is the cost that I'm okay with? Because it all has a cost.
We say this, my 9-year-old says this all the time. This is our phrase to our kids is, what do you want now versus what do you want most? Because what I want now, to people please, so you like me. What do I want now? To spend that money so I can have that thing I want so bad. What do I want now? To eat the burger, to not do the push-up, right? Like, what I want now is going to give me that instant gratification. What do I want most? Well, I want to be connected in my marriage. I want to be closer to God. I want to lose weight. Right? Like, so for us all the time, we're saying to our kids, what do you want now versus what do you want most? And that has really resonated. Like, if it can resonate in the brain of a 9-year-old, it's one of those things that you're like, it's again, not a hard question. It just gets you so focused on your actual truth that sometimes I think we're focused on a truth as opposed to, right, him as the truth. And that question helps us refocus and put our attention on where it needs to be.
Yeah. I love that question. I think that's such a good practice for anyone. Like, as I hear you say that, I'm like, I ask myself the first question a lot of like, what do I need right now? Like, what do I want right now? But I don't often ask myself that second question of like, what do I need most? And maybe I do, it comes out in a different form sometimes, but I just think that alone is a great everyday practice. I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing. I mean, I know you shared kind of from the dream framework and obstacles that you see others coming against. What are some obstacles that you've come up against yourself in your own journey in this? And with that, what are those other practices that you put into place to practice courage every single day?
So good. So for me, I am a learned controller and a learned hider. So for me early on, we talk about beliefs and how they're formed. I had a limiting belief that my only way to overcompensate, that I'm not as good as you think I am and you're going to reject me, was I learned to control everything, all the things, right? Whether in every way. And I learned to hide. And so for me, as God started taking me on this journey, I've been in the marketplace ministry for 15 years. And when we sold everything to travel the country in an RV, and we joke about our midlife awakening, it was my midlife crisis. Let's be honest. My husband was like alive in the RV and he thought it was amazing. I, as a learned controller, was like, oh my gosh, I have so many issues that I need to deal with, like it was my reality of like, dang, I'm holding on to so many things. Well, fast forward, and I really felt led to write this book. And I've always loved writing, and it was something that in theory should come easy, but right out of the gate was like, God, you got the wrong person. You don't know who I am. Like, everybody writes books. Like, that's not a big thing. Like, right. We kind of play that thing with God. And then after I wrote the book, he led me, which I don't hear the audible voice of God often, maybe a handful in my life, but he led me to a moment that I actually heard him say, you wrote this book for the church. You forgot to put me in it. And I was like, no, no, that is a hard pass. You have the wrong girl. At that time I was still dropping F-bombs and drinking wine, love Jesus, love him, but had some rough edges that I needed to deal with. And so that led me on a journey of totally transitioning my business to the church world, getting sober, and not because I had a drinking problem, but I had a hiding problem. And I used alcohol as a way to hide. Putting myself out there on social media. I hate that, ladies. You might follow me and go like, oh my gosh, her video. And I hate it. I hate it. Why? Because I've learned to hide. We just as people learn to hide under busy and alcohol and even our big to-do lists. And so for me, I am a byproduct of that. This work, this revelation that God's given me works because I am not perfect, but I am a free woman who every day is creating from victory, from heaven, from freedom to this earth. And so that means every day I have to look at the control in the face and I have to surrender it. Every day, the hiding in different facets, I have to surrender that, right? And so every day I ask, if I was free, as I am, if I live from victory, if I live from freedom, what would we do today, God? And then what do you want me to do about it? And I have literally learned to mindset my way through life, asking that question. And there's days I break, and there's days I cry, and there's days I do nothing, and there's days I do everything. And all of those days are now accumulating, right? My one slice of bringing heaven to earth, and my marriage and my parenting and my career is just asking that question every day.
Yeah, that's a powerful question. Yeah, my goodness, my brain is like going in 100 different directions right now. I'm like, should we go here? Should we go here? And I'm stuck back on, just when we first started talking about the dream framework, one of the letters, I'm so sorry, don't remember which one. But it was just about how do is our dream really aligned with heaven, with what God is doing, with the things that are happening here on earth that are from him. And that is such a big passion of ours as well. Not just like dreaming wild dreams because dream big, that fits on a mug. But more of like, how are we building the kingdom here and now? So as you work with people, how do you help them figure that out? Figure out what is from the Father. What is he doing? How do you help people just dream the way heaven is dreaming?
Yeah, so good. Well, that's again why when people start reading this book, they think they know what they're going to get out of it. And then you get into about chapter 3 and you're like, oh my gosh, like, holy crap. Because part of the first 7 chapters is a little bit of the breaking. We're actually breaking through limiting beliefs and narratives that aren't serving us, that we oftentimes build our dreams in, right? So my story, point in case, is that my limiting belief has really created this disorientation that says I'm not significant, nor am I important. And so for years, it needed to be the biggest, the best, and the most. Why? Not because that's bad, right? Like if you want to change the industry or if you want to revolutionize, like I'm not saying any of that is bad, do you? But that's not going to keep me going all day long if it's built in fear. When most of us, right, people pleasing, control, all that's built in fear. And so we have to really understand our mindset patterns, because if we don't know them, we will create our dream list, vision boards in fear. And we'll be overcompensating because we don't feel valuable. So if I have more, do more, give more, become more, then I will. And that's a slippery slope. Now, good news is that we have a God. Wait, we're not God. And so even in our misaligned dreams, right? I think for some of us who are still looking for that perfect path, or like, what is the dream that God wants for me? Sometimes you're like, even if it's the quote unquote wrong dream, he's going to lead you to the right dream because he's that good. And as we go, we're going to learn what his voice sounds like. When I went to the school of ministry, one of the most important things they taught me is that, you know, we are all humans having a human experience, learning to hear the voice of God, learning to prophesy, learning to teach. Like, we're learning this. And the only way we learn is by falling, by trying, right? And by continuing to get closer to him. And so sometimes we chase the wrong dream to find the right dream. Sometimes we have to go through the idea. Like, I like the idea. I don't know. I don't want to do the hard work, you know, like, right. So there's so much there that it's actually doing the work to establish where your mindset is at, and then being willing to practice, right? The sound of heaven, practice with God, practice hearing God, that we actually get more, we practice our gift of discernment. Yeah. I think that's huge. Nobody says, are you practicing dreaming with God? No, I'm just afraid I'm going to get it wrong. Well, exactly. You know, like, how do I get better at my marriage? I practice. I practice, I fail, I say I'm sorry, I get closer to him. I practice, I fail, I say I'm sorry, I get closer to him. Like that, and then we share testimonies and vulnerability. Testimony is, look at how great God is and how he's brought freedom in my life. Vulnerability is, join me in my process because it's not perfect, but here's where it is. You know, like, so I think that's a long way of answering that question.
No, I love it. Oh my gosh. Like it's so good and so practical. And so hard. You're right. Simple, stupid, hard.
Hard.
I don't know if you sell mugs, but I'd like to go buy one. So
you can come to our next conference. You can have all the merchandise you want. Simple, stupid, hard.
I literally just want the stuff that talks about being stupid hard. Maybe it's because the season I'm in.
Well, you know what's so funny about that word too is we have these words, like we call them ignorant words that we don't want our kids to use. They're not the bad words. They're just like, and stupid is one of them, because I don't like it to play with. Like, that's stupid. Like, I don't like that word. And yet my kids all the time, I'll say, that's simple, stupid, hard. And they're always like, that's an ignorant word, Mom. You're not supposed to use it.
Like, okay, sorry guys.
When it's a hashtag, it's different. It's like a hashtag. It's a different rule.
Yeah, go ahead and teach your kids. That's hilarious. No, kids, the hashtag, it changes everything.
Changes everything.
Slippery slope. Slippery slope.
Totally. So true.
Gosh. Oh gosh. Oh, I love it. I feel like there's so much more that we would love to unpack, but our time always runs so short. But before we let you go, Julia, let us know again, give us the title of your book and how can people stay in touch with you? Like what are the ways?
So my book is Dream, I Dare You. You can follow me on all platforms at the Julia Gentry. And quite honestly, for people who are ready to take their dreams by storm and go to the next level and get that framework, I would tell people to go to dreamstormwithjulia.com. That's our mastermind group. That's truly where people who have read the book, listened to the podcast, watched one YouTube video, heard one podcast, and they're like, I'm in, like I am so in and want to level up. That's where we meet on a weekly basis. And we're truly giving you that framework to bridge the gap and to take your dreams by storm.
I love that. We will put all of the links, everything in the show notes below. So people, you can check that out there. People, that was weird to say. All of our people, check it out there. People. Oh gosh. Julia, again, thank you so much for being here. We love getting to have these conversations with people. I'm excited to check out your book and to check out all of the different platforms that you've thrown out to us. Before we go, we classically wrap up with a quote from Kate and I's book, A Place Called Braverly. And I just want to share this one. It's actually a combination of two quotes. So maybe that's cheating, but we're going to go with it. Kate, it comes from a chapter that you wrote, right? All about dreaming bravely with the Father. And what does that look like? And the quote is this: often the Father invites us to dream in that space where the creative and the sacred collide, just beyond our capabilities. The kinds of dreams that move heaven and earth, ask us to step a little deeper, trust a little more, and lean on him completely. And I just think that's such a fitting way to end based on everything that we've already talked about, right? Like the idea of dreaming big is it's truly something that if the Father doesn't show up and like make the way forward for it, it just doesn't happen. And it's too small of a dream, frankly, if it's something that we can do within our own capabilities. So friends, I hope that you can take that encouragement and run with that today. Yeah, we're just excited that you all are here with us. Thanks for joining us and sticking with us for the long haul. If you're interested in checking out Julia's book, again, look at the show notes below. If you're interested in checking out Kate and I's book, you can go to our website, aplacecalledbraverly.com. There's a free ebook there. There's a free small group guide there as well, because we're all about doing this in community. I love, Julia, that you have mastermind groups. And just a community, right, of people coming together, going after the same thing. I think that's beautiful. We're designed for that. Any final words from either of you before we head out?
Dream on and pick your hard.
I love it.
Keep it simple, Stu. No, I'm kidding.
Keep it simple, with the hashtag. With the hashtag.
Hashtag simple, stupid, hard. That is going to be my new phrase.
I love it. I was really hoping that would come back in for the wrap up. So take that, friends, put it on a mug, put it on your wall, see it every day, and we'll see you guys next time.